Good morning, learners. Today we are having our editorial session. Before moving to that thing, let's have a thought of the day. A person who feels appreciated will always do more than is expected. Okay. I hope that you guys got that's a wonderful quote. Let's move forward. Today topic is on US refitting Pakistan F-16. The Pakistan factor should not undermine India's close security ties with the US. So yeah, this topic is all about the trilateral relations between India, triangle relations I can say, between India, US and Pakistan. Recently what happened that US after I think 7 to 8 years after recently had agreed on the agreement that they're gonna refit Pakistan F-16s and they're gonna modify them with the new versions. Let's see what author is saying. India is understandably upset with the US decision to refurbish the F-16 fighter fleet of Pakistan. The fleet has been the backbone of the Pakistan Air Force since the early 1980s, upgraded and replenished periodically. F-16 is something, if you guys remember that what happened in the after Pulwama, and this is the main aircraft carrier which Pakistan is having, and Pakistan is someone that they had bought these F-16s from the America. But there are a lot of stories I would tell you in the last what the scenes behind. So right now what actually happened that after so many years when US is not on the same page to get agreed on the things with the Pakistan that they're gonna upgrade their F-16s, US is not recognizing that sort of thing. But recently what happened suddenly out of nowhere, nobody can even understand. Even the Republican Party in the US and even some Democrats are not in the favor of what US is doing right now. But they have done that thing that they agreed on the thing that they're gonna upgrade the F-16 fighter crafts. Okay, let's move forward. As the partnership between the two countries grew over the years, including and particularly in the defense sector, India continuously raised its concerns on this account with the US interlocutors. So the author is saying that recently what happening is that India is something that India is neither believing in the bilateral cooperations. It is going multilateralism, and they are having their own roles. Like what our foreign policy is that we want to work on our goals. Recently, as Shankar says in the European summit that we don't care about that what world is seeking us like. Ki we are with Russia, we are with China, we are with whom? We are with no one. We are here just for our relationships. We are here just for the betterment of our people. So recently, India and US ties has been improving since I think 2016. This thing happened when Trump was in the power. So that much increasement, that much improvement in the relationships, and now suddenly the ultimate enemy of India is Pakistan, and we are seeing US as a sort of ally nation. And now when these sort of decisions came over there, so obviously the eyebrows of our diplomats has been raised up highly on the US. Successive US administrations have maintained that the defense partnership with Pakistan, which is a major non-NATO ally, is a critical component of its global war on terror, a point contested by India. India has mentioned this point that Pakistan is someone who is a highly terrorism promoted nation, and by supporting it, the US is just showing the sign of it's a kind of different kind of thing which is not something we can easily understand. That's what India is saying. Let's move forward. I would tell this term non-NATO and NATO later on, not now. In 2016, the US Congress called the Obama administration's move to give more F-16 fighters to Pakistan. New Delhi's apprehensions came true in February 2019, a day after Balakot airstrike by the Indian force when Pakistan deployed its F-16 to target Indian military bases close to the line of control. So yeah, in 2016, what happened that the US Congress told the Obama administration they had mentioned their point that we should give more F-16 fighters to the Pakistan because there is a need that Pakistan want to improve its aircraft carriers and want to increase the number of the fleets they are having. Okay, but at that time, US say that no, we are not in the mood to give you F-16s, and let's play it by the balance. Okay, at that time their policy is something that they want to be with India. Okay, so but in 2019 recently, a day after Balakot airstrike by Indian force, the Pakistan had deployed its F-16 to target Indian military bases. It was very close to the LAC. So yeah, the author is telling in this paragraph that F-16 is something that is very important to Pakistan, and by upgrading them, by giving them more and more numbers, it's just raising the security concerns of the Indian state. Let's move forward. The Indian Army recovered debris of the advanced medium-range air-to-air missiles fired by the F-16s. F-16 is something that, see, I'm gonna tell you one thing. F-16 is something that has been bought by the Pakistan. Okay, bring back the paragraph. Yeah, F-16 is something that had been bought by the Pakistan from the US. Okay, but in 1980s when this sort of deal happened over there, so what Pakistan did? The Pakistan got these F-16s just a sort of as a sympathy kind of thing, because what US want now, US is seeing that how India is improving. So US played very balancedly. What they say that in Asia, if India is growing like this, we need to maintain a balance over there. So what they do, they gifted some F-16s to the United States, and after that, what happened? They have made a particular kind of treaty on a paper where they had said that, dear Pakistan, you have to maintain this sort of fleet like this. That the amount of weapons they are having, the amount of weapons that can be loaded in F-16, it should be like that. There should not be like something that you can handed these aircraft carriers with cruise missiles, with ballistic missiles. You can't. But Pakistan is Pakistan. With the China support coming onto the papers, what Pakistan did, they assembled different parts from the different nations like Turkey, China, and China had implicated its technology to the F-16 and they upgraded them in 2000s. In 2005, 2006, Pakistan had already upgraded the F-16. When US came to know about this sort of thing that Pakistan had upgraded the F-16, what they did? They did nothing. They did absolutely nothing. They were happy because what they want the regional balance. They just want that if someday India become that much powerful that they start raising his eyebrows on us, we would play the Pakistan cards. So that's the same thing that author is saying over here, that the Indian army, the missile that had been implicated on the Indian army had recovered the debris. Debris means something that has been remained part of the advanced medium range air-to-air missile. On September 7, the US Defense Security Cooperation Agency notified a possible foreign ministry sales worth $450 million for engine. They are implicating them with engine, electronic warfare, and other hardware and software upgrades and spares of Pakistan F-16s. So that much amount of money matters. $450 million matters a lot, and that same thing is happening at that time when there is a flood in the Pakistan, when Pakistan had been reallocated itself 10 years back. Everything had been ruined over there. The infrastructure is completely poor now. So at that time, if US want to help them, they can help them financially by the sort of different thing, by the sort of infrastructure, by the help of WHO. But why they are doing defense ties at that time? It's something that everyone is thinking about. Let's move to next paragraph. Though it said that the proposed sale does not include any new capabilities, weapons, or munitions, the move clearly marks a thaw in the US attitude towards Pakistan. When our external affairs ministers, our external affairs ministry diplomats went to the US and they asked them the same thing, ki what you are doing, what's there in that deal. So they have what they say that whatever the deal is about these two $450 million deal, we are not giving them something like a very advanced weaponries. We are not going to give them a lot of new weapons, a lot of ammunitions. No, we are just making them a little bit upgraded. Okay, that was their response. Their response was very easy. Okay. Now, the External Affairs Ministry has chosen to maintain its silence on the issue, unlike its public expression of summoning the US ambassador in 2016. In 2016, back when the same thing was happening, our External Affairs Ministry responded by summoning the US ambassador, who is living in the New Delhi. Obviously, everyone is having ambassador in every country. Those nations who are the part of WHO, who are the part of UN United Nations, they have their diplomats all over the world. Okay. So, but this time we are extremely silent on this thing. We didn't respond. We didn't put any sort of comment over there. I would tell you why we are silent. Move to the next paragraph, please. The US move strains its relationship with India, which has been making great strides, though it is not without obstacles. Yeah, there were a lot of obstacles between US and India ties recently in the last 3 to 4 years, but the ties were pretty smooth, pretty strong. There was a lot of organizations we are working together, like recently I2U2 is the new organizations we are working together in. New Delhi and Washington have been skillfully managing their differences over Afghanistan, the crisis in Ukraine, and the lingering threat of US sanctions under its countering America's adversaries through Sanction Act. There were a lot of things that there are multiple steps where we are against each other. Like over Ukraine issue, we support Russia. Obviously not directly, but the silence is something. If you are silent on something, that's also a kind of support. Okay. And also on getting the S-400 from the Russia, US didn't put a sanctions over there to us. Okay, so there are a lot of things that where we are against each other, where US and India is completely against each other. But the thing is that we didn't play these things on the media cards. Like we are not putting allegations against each other. So things are good, but it has been like it is not that much smooth. It is not without the obstacle. Washington new warmth with Islamabad also comes amid a flurry of India-US diplomatic and military engagements. And recently, there is going to be a new US-India military deal happening in Uttarakhand region. I think in the 26th October, something like that. So where we are doing these sort of things, where we are acting like allies and seeing this move, which has come recently, it is something unbelievable for Indian diplomats. Move to the next paragraph. India and the US have committed to deepening defense and security cooperations, but the indulgence of Pakistan dampens the spirit. Obviously, we have committed that we're gonna improve our diplomatic ties, economic ties, security cooperations, but now the indulgence of Pakistan by the US unnecessarily has dampens that spirit, has put down that spirit. The Trump administration had tried to hold Pakistan accountable for duplicity in its approach towards terrorist groups operating from its territory, which amounts to running with the hare and hunting with the hounds. The author is saying that when there was the Trump administration, they had directly supported India all over. By obviously, they also put a lot of comments over there on the Pakistan that Pakistan is someone who is who support terrorism. But recently, when Democrats, especially like when Biden becomes the president, obviously, so they are not something like that. So next, to stay in Afghanistan, the US needed Pakistan. Now, to stay away from Afghanistan, it needs Pakistan even more. While the US may have its reasons to keep Pakistan humored and incentivized, India's concerns are immediate and real. See, US and India are not on the same cards, were never on the same cards on Afghanistan because the diplomacy is completely different on the Afghanistan issue. So the author just mentioned over here that when US was being there in the Afghanistan fighting with the Taliban, there was the concept of good Taliban and bad Taliban. If someone has an issue over there, then ask me directly. But yeah, so the author is saying that the thing is, when US was there in Afghanistan, they need Pakistan to hold the talks with the Taliban, to hold the talks with the brother Muslim Khan. Okay, and now when he is stay away from the Afghanistan, they need it more. So that's why, if you see, US is just working for them. Obviously, and everyone is like that. In the foreign diplomacy, everyone is like that. But this is something like a very hard concern. It is putting a very serious concerns over India's diplomats. And it is very realistic for India that we have to accept the situation that what US is doing right now. Move to the next paragraph. Terrorism against India has been Pakistan's state policy for decades. Obviously, Pakistan is implicating a lot of groups, like there certain groups over there via Kashmir. They used to incorporate a lot of terrorists in India. There were terrorist attacks that we guys had faced all over. So terrorism is something that Pakistan always supported. Far from seeking accountability, the US is rewarding Pakistan. And more on the same lines may in the offing. India and the US need to work to ensure that the spectacular gains made in bilateral ties are preserved and nourished. So instead of making them accountable of what they are doing, whom they are supporting, how they are spreading the terrorism all over the, not all over the India, but into the Bangladesh as well, into the Sri Lanka as well, because there are a lot of militants group who is directly linked, which is the part of IET, which is the part of Lashkar-e-Taiba. So these sort of things had been happened, and nobody is something like nobody is blind. Everyone have a secretive agencies over there, and everyone knows about the truth that what was happening and who is the guy who is behind it. Okay, so instead of making them responsible, holding them accountable for these sort of things, what US is doing, US is directly helping them. So the author ended up this thing on a point that India and US, there is something that they need to talk about. They should be on the same page if they are serious allies and they want to be working like together. India and US ask Pakistan to take immediate, sustained, and irreversible action against terrorists. Okay, I have talked about this. So, anybody who want to comment on the tone of the editorial?
Critical.
Anyone else who want to say something about the tone of the editorial? Anybody who
Analyze.
want to? Okay. Anyone have particular any sort of question related to this, related to Afghanistan, India, US, something like that? Anything?
Okay, can you please give me brief, short explanations?
Okay. So what author is saying over here that India and US, who is working very hard on the bilateral ties, from economic cooperation to defense ties to multilateral groups has been associated with them. They are working together on a lot of things. And now when US directly knows that if there is something like a very hard enemy of India, it is Pakistan, who is incorporating a lot of terrorism in India, who is creating a particular sort of imbalance in Jammu and Kashmir, who is supporting IAT, etc. militants group in Tamil Nadu, in Jammu Kashmir, in Bangladesh, instead of holding them accountable. And the most important thing is the timing. The timing in the diplomacy is something very important. You need to understand that thing. The timing of Pakistan, what Pakistan is facing right now, it is something like they need the humanitarian aid. But the US provided them humanitarian aid, but the thing is that at this time when they are having a very deep relationship with India, why US chooses to support Pakistan in their F-16 program? So that's what author is saying, that there is a need of the hour that India and US, should sit on the table and they have to work together to save their bilateral ties, to save their hard work that they had been doing from the last 6 years. That's what author is saying. Thank you so much for lending your ears and listen me carefully. Thank you so much.